Now, Keir Starmer, as we were discussing, he had his final appearance at the dispatch box in the House of Commons at Prime Minister's Questions today. We can talk to the International Development Minister, Baroness Chapman, Jenny Chapman, who's an old friend and colleague of Keir Starmer. Hello to you, Jenny.
Hi, John. How are you?
I'm very, very well. I just want to ask you, first of all, I know you like your football, but you were a big part of the campaign to save Darlington, your local football club. How are you feeling right now? You've got that sort of knot in your stomach.
Very different situation, John, I have to be honest.
Oh, no, I was just paying tribute to you for your role there. I'm obviously talking about Argentina.
Yeah, no, I mean, the fight to save Darlington was a real whole town effort, and there were some real heroic individuals. I did my bit, as you'd expect a local MP to, and I think what it taught me, as someone who knows next to nothing about football still to this day, is just how much it matters to a community, and the way that the people of Darlington felt about their club when it was under threat was extraordinary.
I've got to tell you, I'm quite impressed. I'm quite impressed by the local MP of Darlington saying you know nothing about football. I mean, people like football in Darlington.
Nothing.
Yeah, and even tonight. Are you not much engaged tonight? Are you watching?
I'll watch it, but I'm a big believer in not pretending you know more than you know.
Oh, I've seen too many people do that wrong. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like where angels fear to tread. So, no, I'll be watching it. I'll be cheering on. But the people of Darlington did themselves proud through that campaign.
Oh, okay. I was simply interested in the depth of your football engagement. However,
it must very shallow.
It's very shallow. We have established that. It is also a sad day for you, isn't it? You're a friend of Keir Starmer.
Yes, it is. It's a sad day. It was quite moving at Cabinet this morning. It was quite poignant that the work that he has led is coming to an end, probably a bit sooner than many of us would have liked, but this is where we are. And I thought the Cabinet came together in a way that was appropriate. Keir has been very clear that he expects everybody to unite and to work together to support the government over the next period. That is what we will do. And I think he has an awful lot to be proud of.
Did you shed a tear? Did you shed a tear? Did Keir Starmer shed a tear?
No, not today.
Okay. You presented him with a carriage clock, I gather.
Yeah, so a lot of us contributed to get a gift, which is appropriate. David Lammy took the lead and chose to buy a carriage clock. A lot of us were a bit, really? A carriage clock?
Really?
But
really? What's wrong with a carriage clock? Is that just a bit of a cliche?
Well, I thought it might be, but as it turns out, it is something that meant a lot to Keir because his dad had been fascinated by clocks, and it was something that was really appreciated by Keir. And I thought it was a lovely moment, and I felt it was appropriate for the occasion.
Just have a listen to Tom Baldwin, the Keir Starmer biographer, talking to Joe Coburn on Times Radio a little bit earlier on. He had this to say.
The verdict that he didn't have sufficient qualities to be Prime Minister, the necessary qualities he had are still necessary, and we might miss some of them.
NATO Secretary-General?
I think that's something that he would be interested in. I think it probably requires Andy Burnham's government to support him in that, and these are one of the some of the questions which Andy Burnham has to resolve quite quickly. You know, how far he is going to contrast himself with the record of the last 2 years, or how much he wants to build on it.
Keir Starmer's biographer there, Tom Baldwin. What do you think, Jenny? Is he maybe on his way to being NATO Secretary-General?
I don't know if he's on his way to being NATO Secretary-General. I do know that there is a role for him potentially on the world stage, but I think it's very soon to be making those kind of predictions. But I think the way that people have responded to his announcement that he's to leave Number 10 and the things that people have said about him today do make me think that there is more that Keir Starmer has to give for his service to this country and perhaps globally. I don't know what form that will take, but he is an exceptional individual. He is a good leader, and he is driven entirely by integrity and a determination to serve. And I think that there may be an important role for him yet.
And what about a role, some sort of role in British politics? He said he's not going to be I don't think he used the phrase, but the message was he's not going to be a backstreet driver. He's not going to sit behind Andy Burnham, a sort of Ted Heath equivalent to Margaret Thatcher. But his advice perhaps will be sought, maybe on such things as foreign affairs.
Well, I think if your advice is sought and you feel inclined to give advice, then you should do that in a way that is helpful to the person seeking that advice. Usually that means in private and without an obligation to act upon it. And I think that's the way that Keir would go about this. There is no way that he's going to be, out there doing a Substack and a kind of popping up on random sort of media outlets giving day-to-day commentary. It's just not who he is.
Yeah,
but I think
may not always agree with Andy Burnham. May not always agree with Andy, but Andy Burnham hasn't he, taken issue with the government's handling of policy on Gaza, for example, suggested that the government might have taken a tougher line on the treatment of Palestinians. Was that, looking on it now, do you think that was a fair point by Andy Burnham?
I think if you look back now, you can have different perspectives on decisions that were made at various points, but I would point out that since we've been in government, we reinstated funding for UNRWA, we've recognised Palestine, we've sanctioned members of the Israeli cabinet. These are not things that I think any government that we've seen any other government would have done, that we've seen for a very long time. I am glad that we took those decisions. There is no doubt that there is an enormous level of concern for what is happening to people, and particularly children in Gaza. That's a concern we share. And even though it is diminished somewhat from the headlines, it's a concern that all of us working in government still have. And we want to continue to work to do whatever we can to bring about peace in the Middle East. Okay. And, there will be a range of views on this, of course there are, but I've visited the occupied territories myself. I've met the people who've been displaced repeatedly by settler violence. We understand very well the level of concern. All
right. More generally, just lastly, sometimes you hear Keir Starmer described as a fighter, and it's one of the rules of the fight game that you don't show when you're hurting. But Keir Starmer, he got some pretty brutal treatment. He didn't show it, on that principle, among others. But as a friend of Keir Starmer, are you sore about the way your friend Keir Starmer was treated, the way that he was driven out?
I'm not, I think that you have to rise above those sort of emotional reactions. I've had my moments, don't get me wrong. There have been days, but I think this is bigger than all of us, and we've got to face the future. We've got to be a team. We've got to deliver for the country. We were elected on a manifesto for a whole parliamentary period. We can continue to do this. We've got a really stable majority. The PLP will come together and we will continue to deliver for the British people. Nobody comes into politics with anything other than that in mind in the Labour movement.
You prompt Jenny, a final question then. I mean, tell me what Andy Burnham is going to bring to Downing Street that's been lacking. And Jenny, if the answer is nothing more and nothing new, there was no point of defenestrating Keir Starmer. So what is Andy Burnham bringing that's been lacking?
Well, let's see. I think he's a good person. He wants to unite the Parliamentary Labour Party. He will have quality. Everybody brings something unique, don't they, to these roles? And Andy will do that. He'll bring his own stamp on it. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. I've got, yes, I do have some sadness, and you wouldn't believe me if I said I didn't. I think Keir's done a really good job, and he's transformed the party from catastrophic defeat into a large parliamentary majority. That is, no Labour leader's ever done it quite like that before.
Okay.
But it is time to face the future. Andy will be the Prime Minister, and we have to make sure that it's a success.
Okay, well, you seem to have taken the outgoing Prime Minister's advice at his last question time, which was to give an answer without actually answering the question. So,
well, I've been doing this a while, John.
Yes, you have. Baroness Chapman, good to talk to you.